TUFF SHIFT. Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of TUFF SHIFT, the podcast where we unpack all that goes into surviving the job and living the dream. I'm your host, Patrick Murtagh, and baby, let me tell you, I had a dream. A real fucked up dream, baby. Literally last night, technically this morning. It is the dream that woke me up. And I can only assume it came to be because I spent the last 72 hours in my really intense bartending job this weekend. It just felt like I lived there. It felt like I lived there. I opened on Friday, which is fine, dandy, whatever. But I didn't get out until like 11, and then I had to open brunch the next day, which means I had to get there at 7:30. Brunch service starts at 10, but this is how long this bar takes to set up. And so I had to get there at 7:30, which means that I have to get up at 5:30 so that way I can be a normal human being and at least have coffee by myself. And on top of that, my fiance was out of town. So I was on dog duty and had to do all that before getting back to work, and then just completely crushed by brunch. Obviously, the dog's got to walk, so had to do that, and then lather, rinse, repeat for Sunday. So I'm not surprised that I'd had one of these horrific restaurant dreams that seem to plague you. Whether you've been out of the industry for a long time, these dreams pop out of nowhere. But specifically when you're overworked, it's there. And this one was just so unique and such an experience that I woke up feeling guilty. Yeah. Realizing that, like, oh, that's a dream. Thank God it's over. I still have guilt for just how bad everything went. I was at this private event in a penthouse, but it was like catering, but then it was also a restaurant. You know how dreams kind of like shapeshift around you. So it's like, okay, I'm at this person's private house, but it's also a full restaurant, and I have other coworkers, and I had my tablet. And if you've ever, I'm not sure how your dreams work, but whenever I have a dream and I have to read something or look something up on the computer, it's like, where'd the words go? It's always blank. It's always blank. And so I had this tablet with a POS on it so I could like take orders. And then I get this VIP person. And there's like, you got to take care of him, whatever he wants, forget everything else. He's your person to stick to. And he's not shy about letting me know what a VIP he is and how important he is. And his girlfriend works in this industry and she's a big name in this industry. And the level of detail that was around this person, basically said, if I walk 15 minutes in any direction, people would know his name. I don't know what that means. That's bizarre and intense. And why the hell am I dreaming about this? And he wants a beer. He wants a specific beer, and I have to get it because this is, I know why isn't already there, even though he hasn't told me what beer it is. And these are things that you need to like think ahead and be proactive and like basically letting me know how awful I am at my job. And I go to look at my tablet and there's nothing there. There's no POS system, there's no order, there's no menu. And so I'm like running around for my coworkers and their tablets seem to be working and everything seems, and they show me like, just close it out. And so I close it out, I type in whatever the freaking thing is it's supposed to be, and nothing's coming up. There's no menu. I can't get his beer. I can't get this order. It seems to be going on forever, just running around, and no one's helping me. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just troubleshoot. I can ring the beer in later. Let me just go find this beer. So I go to this room that is where the beer is supposed to be, I guess. And it's kind of like, it has a wine refrigerator. It has all this. And it's kind of then shapes into like also a storage closet. So I'm like ducking and reaching and looking, and there's no beer. There's no beer anywhere. And I can hear the man outside of this room just telling me how bad I am at my job and why is this taking so long. And it just kept going and going and going. And I was thinking to myself, thinking that this was not a dream, an actual reality. I was like, I need to make a note of this for the podcast to where some shifts feel like nightmare shifts. Because I didn't know I was having a nightmare. I didn't know I was having a nightmare. I couldn't get this man his drink. And then I thankfully woke up. And then I felt just like the world's worst server. And I felt like I let that man down. And I felt I let myself down, and I was so disappointed in the level of service that I had not provided this dream person that I will hopefully never see again. I hope I don't dream him into existence. But that's kind of fucked up. Like, that's the level of trauma we carry in this industry. And also, as I have unpacked with you before, I am a recovering Catholic, so I have that guilt. It just was awful. And I want you to know that that is what your 20% goes to cover, is the therapy of the cost of that, because this is what we do. This is what part of the job. So if you're listening and you're not in the industry and you're like, oh, it's an easy breezy job. No, it's not. And a lot of times we talk about it being how great that we can hang our apron up at the end of the night, the shift's over, and we're just done. We can disconnect. And for the most part, yeah, we can. We don't have to worry about emails and this and that, but it's the dreams that get you. It's the one, we've said it here multiple times, that 1 a.m. wake up call, ranch for table 24. It's that. So last week we unpacked tipping culture, and don't be an asshole and dangle that tip like a carrot. Just leave the fucking money on the table. Leave the money on the nightstand, all right? And just go your merry way, because we have earned it. More than bringing you sides of ice, more than anything that, we have earned it. Just just give us the tip. Oh, not like that. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, that was the dream. And I wanted to share that with you for whatever reason. I wanted to share that with you. I am feeling beat and bruised today. Like I said, it was a rough 72 hours. But when we left off last week talking with Ariana, I had mentioned that, I was in my basic blacks, which meant that I was going to either cater or train at a new restaurant. Because, yes, once again, I am on the job hunt. And she wished me luck as I was heading out the door. And I got to this restaurant, which is close to home. And let me just say the good things up front. This restaurant is beautiful. The cocktail menu is beautiful. The setup is straightforward. The garnishes are basic and straightforward. Dehydrated fruits, regular fruits, this fruit, it's all there. And it is absolutely perfect. And for the most part, the people were lovely. The people that came were lovely. Again, just a really beautiful venue with simple, straightforward, good tasting cocktails. Great beer selection, wine selection. The wine section was okay, but everything else, nice glassware, open air, beautiful. But there was also some red flags. And first of all, this is in an outdoor, what is going to be an open air mall, like a strip mall, closer to home, closer to three major concert and sporting event arenas in the area. And they're building up condos around there. They're really building out, that's the other term for gentrifying, this neighborhood. And this restaurant is one of the first open storefronts there. So it's pretty much this restaurant and a movie theater and a gym and a completely empty strip mall, which, uh, try try working your way around a strip mall to get to your first day of training when there are no stores and everything looks the same. It is like a maze. I feel like when Dorothy went back to Oz, whatever that movie was, it was just like, where am I? I'm going. So there's not a lot of foot traffic, even though there are these three major event spaces around, which could promise foot traffic, can promise foot traffic, if people knew they were there. And that night there were three big concerts going on at the same time. The place around it was packed, but nobody really knew that this place existed. So with the three concerts, like, we're going to be busy. It's like, brace yourself, Effie, like all these things. And then nothing happened. And so I'm just kind of like, all right, I'm going to check in with a team, and asking, how's it going? How you feeling comfortable with your payroll and da 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 da? And pretty much nobody was happy with the pay. And basically, one of the bartenders told me, like, this is not a standalone job. You will need to have another job in addition to this. And I was like, I cannot take on one more side job. Like, I'm trying to get out of my current place, but I need to be able to match what I'm making there before I leave. I can't come to this place for really, like, it's just not enough money to then have to learn a new menu, a new spec sheet, which the other red flag was I was expected to have come to my first training fully memorized with all the specs for the drinks for the cocktail list to be able to make them, and I did not. I reviewed them, but I had to take yet another food test at the place that I'm currently at because they're always testing people. So my bandwidth can only withstand so much. So I was like, these are all pretty basic expressions in case they don't have a spec sheet at the bar, which is just a little cheat sheet, which every bar should have because like Tina Turner says, she's over on the wall right there, we don't need another hero. If you're unsure, look it up and make the drink. We don't need heroes behind the bar. That is like, no, I don't want to work with heroes. So I have my cheat sheet. They actually have a cheat sheet, which was wonderful. And I explained to her, like, it's not enough for me to study this. I need to make them. And it is my first trail. And I can't come with the menu memorized, with the tables and the seat numbers memorized, with this memorized, with all your wines and beers memorized. I can't. And I didn't. And it was still perfectly fine. I got into it and I just kind of took over the bar as I usually do. And they were loving me. And I was kind of loving it, except for the fact that there's not going to be a lot of money here. And I was just like, I have to stay. I have to stay to finish this training, but like I knew I wasn't going to be returning. And so it was just kind of like awkward and I felt bad because I wanted to like, they were nice and they really responded well to me. And I really want to get out of my job, but it wasn't in the cards. But it's kind of like when you're on a bad date, it's like, do you just get up and leave? Some instances, yes. Some instances you just gotta sit it through and hear more about the time this person played the Tin Man in their kindergarten production of Wizard of Oz. Why am I making Wizard of Oz references today? Uh, Anyways, it's the end. It's the last day of Pride when I'm recording this. That's clearly why. And I'm a giant homosexual. Anyways, so it was just kind of like figuring out like how do I get out of here like without triggering anybody, and I did. And I wrote to her this morning and just kind of explained everything. Like, I think you're amazing. I think it's going to be a hit once people move into the condos they're building and once stores open up in the strip mall. I think your drinks are wonderful, your staff is wonderful, I think you're wonderful, and I'm open to revisiting this down the road should our paths cross. But right now, I can't take on yet another side hustle to supplement the job that's supposed to supplement my career as a performer. And she responded, nice, 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 wonderful. But there was one major red flag that I didn't tell her about, and I wouldn't. She'll figure it out on her own. But it's just every bar has one, and it's the toxic, hyper alpha, assuming that they're alpha, straight male bartender. And this place had to have one and had to be there for my first trail. And so I got looped into the Sling, which is like their messaging app where they talk about all the stuff and and bar prep. Here's what we need for tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. And there's like, oh, I made 11 liters of juices and I made 11 liters of this and We need to dehydrate this. And so I got there and the opening bartender takes me on a tour to show me where everything is, where we get it. Here are the juices that they're talking about in Sling. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. And how do we go about like this prep? Like, how do we break up the responsibilities? What is the schedule for making it? How do we balance that out? And she said, oh, well, we don't really have that yet. There's this guy named Serge, and he's just kind of takes care of that now. Like, eventually we'll all divide the responsibilities, but right now Serge is the juice man. And Serge happens to be the toxically straight male bartender. So he arrives, and I'm like, okay, Serge, juices. I see his name pop up in Sling. So I'm like, hey, Serge, nice to meet you. I hear you're the guy that makes all the juices. And he looks at me and laughs. He's like this 6'2", very handsome, 20-ish Russian dude, very, very hyper masculine. And he looks at me and says, what is probably the most vile and vulgar thing I have ever heard a complete stranger say to me, that if we had known each other if we had worked together and our senses of humor like lined up, like, trust me, my humor is not Disney. My humor is dark, my humor is sexual, my humor is inappropriate. But that's not something you lead with, right? The same thing like working at a restaurant. It's a lot like dating. You can't just like lay all your trauma on the table at once. It's there. I trust it's there. I trust you have baggage. You trust I have baggage. But it's how we parse it out, right? Like we're going to course this for you so that way you're not inundated, because it shows management skills. It shows that emotional intelligence. And so he, had we been working together, I would have been on the floor crying at what he said because it was so funny. But because I had just met him, giant red flag, huge red flag. And I'm like, I don't want to work with this human being because he's going to be disgusting and just full of himself. I'm going to say it right now. I might edit it out. And if you hear me say I edit it out and then we skip to the guest, Venmo me $10 and I'll tell you, because I'm not, if it's too gross, I'm going to take it out. But maybe you need to hear it because I had to hear it. So I say, Serge, you make all the juices. I hear you're the man. And he looks at me and he says, I am not the one who makes the juices. And I said, oh? And he goes, it is the women when they see me that make all the juices. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And if that wasn't bad enough, when the owner came up to the bar to run some drinks, which is another thing. This owner runs drinks. She helps her staff without making them feel guilty. But anyways, we'll get to that. He was so proud of himself that he repeated the joke to her, and she just was mortified, but said nothing and walked away. And I thought, you know, this ain't it. This ain't it. But it's again like being on a tragic date. Like, how do I get out of here unscathed? And I'm out of there unscathed. I never have to see Serge again. I actually would like to go back to this place as a guest. I'd love to bring my fiance there because it is in our neighborhood and I love to support local businesses. I wish them the best. I wish I could tell you their name so you could go support them. But with all I've divulged, we'll sprinkle it down the road. Anyways, I had one more thing to talk about, but we're already 17 minutes into this opening. And our guest today is waiting and patiently waiting. And I am so happy to have him here because I have known his work. He's a face that is familiar to me from the New York musical theater audition scene, from just the regular, gay guys out at night scene. We have so many mutual friends in common, but we don't actually know each other. And I've been, following him and getting his content, like even just popping up on my timeline as suggestions, people sending me reels. He's hilarious, like super fucking hilarious. And I, I had to reach out to him because my brother sent me one of his reels, knowing that I would find it funny. And I thought, if he's doing this work, and it's clear with all the people we have in common, with the career paths we have in common, all of that, it's clear why he shows up on my suggestion page. But the fact that he made it to my straight electrician brothers like suggestion page just by his sheer talent and funny and humor, and my brother thought Shawnee Boy needs to see this. I was like, I'm gonna just reach out to him and be like, yo, my brother sent me stuff that I already see of yours, and I think that's super cool. And do you by chance happen to have any history working in hospitality? And he was so gracious to respond with an emphatic yes. And not only has he worked in hospitality, but he's working on creating a show about hospitality. He is, I mean, kind of annoying in how talented he is. He is an actor, a singer, a director, a choreographer. He writes, he creates all this content. He's beautiful, like literally beautiful to look at. You're like, you have enough, and you're also beautiful and thoughtful and smart and can sing these high glorious notes. It's no wonder he's been on Broadway, he's been off Broadway, TV, film, national tours, international tours. He does it all. And I can't wait to unpack with him because he just has so many beautiful stories to share and experiences. And I can't wait for you to meet him. So I'm going to just shut up and bring on today's guest, Mr. Alex Ringler.
Hello,
And
can you see me all
hello.
right?
I can see you perfectly fine, and you are
Good,
in
okay.
your Instagram costume, which
I
I
am
think
in
is
my skank
perfect.
tank. Yeah, I feel like that if I was gonna make a line of like clothing, it would be a line of skank tanks. It's just like it's just a tank top that barely covers like both nipples and is very low on the sides. I wear them everywhere, and I
I
wore them
think
in New York even before I moved to LA, just because I don't know, I like them.
as you should, nobody here is complaining. But I think as soon as this interview is over, I think you need to trademark skank tank because I've never heard that term before, and it is
Really? I
amazing.
feel like
I
it's a thing.
know.
Okay, I need to get on this then because yeah, Alex's skank tanks or something like that, and just a line of them.
Not that you're not spinning on enough plates with all the things that you do, but that is hilarious. So thank you so much for taking time to come on the
Yeah, thank you
show.
for
And
asking me. Appreciate it.
of course, of course. And like I said, I just thought it was so cool that your reach is such that it's not just with art. It's easy to end up in musical theater and gay circles and this and that, and like this is content you'd like, of course. But your reach is going out to like blue collar straight dudes and this and that, and they're
Oh
responding. Like
gosh.
that's pretty amazing. That's pretty
Makes me
amazing.
scared a little bit. Yeah. What did your brother send you? What, like, do you
He
remember?
It was one of the recent ones. It wasn't the straight influencer, which kills me, the guitar one, because it
Oh
brought me
yeah, him.
back. It brought me back like 20 years to college, where the first week of
Hmm.
freshman year, every straight guy had a guitar and was in the
Had
common
a fucking
area
guitar, man.
of and it was
Yeah.
like if
Doing
I hear
covers of
of
whatever
it was hip
song.
hip 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 the Green Day. It was like I if I hear that song
Oh
one more
shit.
time, even when I hear it now, I just think of those straight dudes just trying to like get in with the girls, and I was like, that's not it. But that was just hilarious. And
Thanks.
we'll unpack your content later, but I want to
Yeah,
make sure
thanks.
that we talk about like how you became like what was your first job? What was your gateway job into this industry, into this beautiful stereotype of an actor and singer slinging hash to pay the bills and pay for classes.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I came about it in a way that I didn't hear about very often. Because I think I had a hosting job for like a couple of months in New York before I started booking gigs. Um, and so what happened was is like I booked a tour right out of college, and then I had this like little brief time where I moved to New York, and I got that hosting job plus like a job as like an hourly receptionist at Goldman Sachs, which randomly, so I was like, oh, I've worked at Goldman Sachs. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then I had a summer job and then another tour, and then I booked a national tour right after that, and then I booked Broadway. And so it was just like
All right,
I
this
had
interview is
all of
over.
no, but that's the thing is like then I didn't like but then after Broadway I had a little bit of a lull in my career. And so but I hadn't heard I felt almost worse in a way because I hadn't heard of someone who's like made it to Broadway and then after that has to go get a regular service job. And so I felt like a little bit of shame for that. But like the more I talk to people, the more I realize it's like, no, that's kind of like a normal up and down that happens. Like so that's what made me kind of think about like telling that story in a way. And that's the pilot I'm working on now. Nothing. It's in very very early draft form, but it's kind of about how restaurants are this kind of cross section of dreams that happen. Like some
Mm,
people are on the way up, some people are on the way down, somewhere in the middle, and some people just want to work at a restaurant too. So
yeah.
it's like it's such a weird like and wonderful like cross section of people that work at service jobs and in hospitality that I was like, well, that sounds like a bunch of stories that could be interesting. And it actually started as a draft. I had this acting teacher who he was on a Nickelodeon show, and then he got after that like he had to get a job at the American Girl Store restaurant, which I didn't know that was a thing. Did you know that
Hmm.
was a thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I didn't know it was a thing. But that's the thing. So, but he was already on this Nickelodeon show. So while he's like trying to sell these, $20 milkshakes, he has these kids coming up to him being like, "Will you sign my backpack because I recognize you from this Nickelodeon show?" And so it's like I was like that seems weird and fun and a little bit like my story of like going into service after accomplishing a goal in my other career. So I was like, okay, that's something that could be a fun story to tell.
Yeah, and it is really amazing. Like I always think it's funny to be recognized, not for my work on stage, but for my work in a restaurant. And people,
Oh.
we kind of undervalue ourselves in certain ways. Like we are part of people's memories, people's
Mhm.
what they come to celebrate. And I had a
Yeah.
couple that I waited on, and like I could tell it was a first date. And so like I we used at this restaurant we had like $100 a night that we could just like sprinkle on our tables. Or when I was working
Oh,
the bar,
nice.
we could
Okay.
sprinkle on the bar.
Like
Like you have a
buybacks
hundred,
and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
just you have $100 to play with. Ring it in, ring everything in, but you have $100 to up the ante. And there was this one couple, and they were just super super adorable. It was a first date, and so I sent them like a round of drinks, and then I sent them a dessert, and they came back months later to dine with us for Valentine's Day, and
Mm.
that was like happened to be like their like monthly anniversaries because they were still at that point in it, and I barely recognized them, but they recognized me, and they're like, it was that extra round of drinks that allowed our walls to drop, and we've been together ever since because you
Mhm.
helped facilitate. And I was like, I'm just trying to pay rent, and I'm trying to like not fold any napkins, and really to
Yeah.
appreciate like what it takes, and like that to these little girls. And though I could never work in that restaurant, um to these little girls, he's a celebrity because
Mhm.
this is their dreamland. um
Yeah.
Now, you after you did Broadway,
Mhm.
what was your job back into hospitality?
I think I started as a host again because I had some experience in that, but hosting is hourly and not too much tips. And I don't think this restaurant gave a cut of the tip pool to the host. So I was like, okay, let me try to get into service there. But I was a little shot in the foot because I was here, like late 20s, having no restaurant experience in New York. So go try to get a service job with no experience, and it's going to be like, well, no, sorry. So I kind of had to work my way up from host. And I did that at a Hell's Kitchen restaurant, and I was there for a few years. And then that became kind of, the little things that aren't a big deal become a big deal, like, with managers kind of taking advantage a little bit here and there. And so I left that place, went to another, and just kind of bopped around until I found a place that was like my favorite place to work at. It's called Crave Fish Bar. There's one on the Upper West Side and there's one Midtown East. I think they opened an Upper East Side location as well. But they treat their service staff very, very well. At least they did to me. I feel like I was able to just kind of go there, make my money. As long as I did a good job, they didn't have any complaints. And then I could leave for jobs and usually come back, and they would try to find a spot for me. And usually it worked out. So, yeah. And I just kind of did that until I ended up moving out here to Los Angeles.
I mean, that sounds like the dream. Like you want something that is like straightforward and easy enough, low stakes. I know that I can get the job done, and then I can also go without any guilt to take the other jobs, which is why I'm here now.
Yeah.
Within all that, maybe this maybe have taken place in the Hell's Kitchen place or not. Is there any tough shift that sticks out
Oh,
amongst
yeah.
the other of all the tough shifts, like to this day, to where you may be triggered by a nightmare so much like what I had just this morning?
I have two. Like I worked for this place for maybe a little under a year. I think I can say their names because they're no longer open. I think they closed with COVID, but they were attached to a hotel. They're called the Wayfarer Restaurant, and it was just the managers were cycling in and out because it was not a good place to work for anybody. And
Mm.
so we had our New Year's Eve thing, and it was a little north of Times Square. And they said, okay, we're going to stop seating at like 12:30 or something like that. And then at 12:30 rolls around, and this manager comes up to me. He's like, "We're gonna keep seating until the line is done." And so we just had to keep like seating, keep seating, keep seating. And we were like, "You told us one thing, you're doing another thing." Um, that was not great. And then there was another time I was working at a different place. Well, I'm not gonna say their name, but it was right after COVID, and like they were opening a little like more normally for Valentine's Day. Speaking of Valentine's Day, and it was a prefix menu, and we had all the things. It's like we're going to get payment up front, and then they just have to select their things, and you fire things because we had like two servers for two floors of I want to say maybe like a good amount of covers. I don't remember the covers, but it was busy all night, and there's two servers, one bartender, and Yeah, what we didn't realize is with the new system, when you run payment, it fires everything. So we were here like putting in their order with, appetizer, main, dessert. And then once all that was in, our manager or our owner started running the payments. And when he ran payment, everything got fired. And so we didn't realize that till about a half hour in. And so like mains were coming to tables before appetizers, drinks weren't getting to tables before. Like it was all a mess, and I felt so bad because it's like this is Valentine's Day after COVID. It's the first time people could go out and have fun and like try to have a good time. And so
Yeah.
I was upstairs too, and the bar is downstairs. So I was like running up and down, up and down, up and down. Got all my steps in that day, which is great. But also I went to the bar. I was like, Alex, just give me some shots. Like, and he, my bartender was just like, he was amazing because he had to hold down all of that. And anytime I went up there, I was like, just give me some shots. And I would bring him to tables like, so sorry this is happening. So sorry this is happening. So, and I think it was, since it was a prefix night, it was a, gratuity already included situation. And so I wasn't worried, but also I didn't want to be like pissing everybody off either. So,
'Cause, well, you take pride in what you do, and like I complain on this podcast a lot, but that's more for fun. Like we do take pride in it, and like even though the 20% is included, and this isn't that, and at the end of the day, like what are they going to do? It's like, but that's not what we do, and I think especially as performers, like we take pride in everything. We're in our training and this, and it really spreads out into other areas of our life. So it makes sense that like you feel guilty a little bit about it, though you shouldn't. That's the restaurant. But you did what I think is the best thing you could do in situations like that, and that is to be like 1997 Rosie O'Donnell and just give free shit out. Like because if I can't get you your dinner or if I can't get your salad before your dessert arrives, I can get your
mhm,
shot. I can get your shot, and
yeah,
that just makes
exactly.
everyone happy, and it shows them that like you're on their side.
Mhm,
To go back to the New Year's thing, that sounds
yeah.
awful. That sounds because it's after 12:30, after 12:01, it's not getting anything but more messy. And just to get that line
And also,
through.
it's like this is just north of Times Square, so this is like drunk people from Times Square coming at
Oh
this
yeah.
point, and so it was a mess. And I don't know why they did. I'm sure it was some sort of like the owner said stay open or something like that. But even when the manager came up to me, she knew this was bad news and she knew it
Yeah.
wasn't cool, but she knew it was her job to say that to me. And I was like, well, that's shitty. And I tried so many times to leave that place and find another job, but and I think I had given notice there because I trained at another job and they said they were gonna hire me, and then I gave notice and then they reneged and I had to go back there. So it was just a mess. I hated that place so much.
Sounds like what I'm going through right
I'm
now.
sorry. That's no
Um,
fun.
it's no fun, but it's one of those things where I'm sure you have that experience, probably, I'm sure, with the bartender you mentioned. Like,
Mhm.
we all bond together over these shitty experiences. And my coworkers, I just, I adore and respect the shit out of them. And I've said very, very clearly on here multiple times, like, to me, my priority in restaurants is clearly myself is first because I'm paying my rent and I got to take care of me. So I'm not going to be a doormat for anyone. And second is my coworkers.
Mhm.
And then the restaurant and the guests kind of like vie for last place, just depending on the situation. But like in those
Yeah.
situations, you really do bond. Even the place that I left before, which I feel, I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I just feel the industry's getting wilder. It is getting like that little kitty who's coming in the picture. Hello.
She
Um,
really wants some food right now, so she's just sitting staring at me.
do you want to take a break to feed her?
Oh, no, no. She's
Okay.
not. She usually doesn't get fed till 2. She's just being
Oh,
greedy.
perfect. But like that, the industry just seems to be getting like more untamed and just like completely chaotic. And
Mhm.
also like being in this industry north of 40 is just,
Mhm.
it's an experience. Now, when you came
Yeah.
out here to LA, did you get back into hospitality or were you able to skip that?
Not yet, because I moved out in February. I think the next step is to do that. Just because I'm. I'm doing fine money wise, but at the same time, I don't want to like keep eating up savings.
Yeah.
But and I have a few people who love the place they work at, and I'm trying to get in there. But it's tough right now because I feel like a lot of service jobs are taken because, especially because Hollywood's so slow at the moment. But yeah, I'm going on a family cruise in a week or so, and so after that is going to be the big push to be like, okay, let's see what's out there situation.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
guess that the similar thing too, like when you were thinking about, I made it to Broadway and I have to go back and find a survival
Hmm.
job. Like, how has that worked out for you going forward? Because I mean, you do have a list of things you've done. You've appeared on FBI, in the show Harlem, the movie Bros, all
Hmm.
these things, and you've had your career and your resume is, I mean, it is to be commended. Like it is something to
Thanks.
aspire to. How do you balance that back and forth of like, I got this contract, I got health weeks, I got this and that, and like, and now I got to get another job to, because it is a job. What you're doing
Mhm.
is a job, and what you're doing
Yeah.
online is a job. But that
Yeah.
having to balance that how has that gotten easier, or how has it gotten more manageable for you?
It got easier, especially with Crave, when if you can find a place that like is a good port in a storm, and like going in there exactly how the beast works and how to work it and get in and do your job. And I kind of think it's because people kind of, I don't know, it's almost looked down upon to have a service job as an entertainer, but at the same time, if you're making your money 3 days a week, that keeps you like, you know, afloat, then you have the rest of that time to work on your other stuff. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of how I look at it now. It's like as long as I'm making enough over there to supplement or to support my goals in my life, then that what's wrong with that? And there's nothing wrong with that. And it's like it's almost better than maybe having, I don't know, like what not to like yuck anyone's yum or be
Yeah.
like anybody else's like choice of taking a side gig. But if you have to, I feel like if you have to overinvest in your side gig, it takes away from your career goals. And so I try to keep the side gig being like, okay, let's make that where I make my money, where I do the best job I can and let that take care of itself. And then the other side of it is like, okay, don't just kind of sit around the rest of the week and not do anything. Use that time to effectively pursue what else you're interested in your career goals.
Hey there, just checking in. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And if you are, why not leave us a 5-star review and a comment or two wherever you're listening to this from? And don't forget to follow us on social media at TUFF SHIFT Podcast. That's TUFF Shift Podcast. Everywhere, literally everywhere. And just a reminder, gratuity's not included, but tips are always welcome. And you can find our virtual tip jar at tuffshiftpodcast.com. That's TUFF shiftpodcast.com. All right, back to the show. And again, because like if you get an office job, that is an investment of time, and it's harder to find replacement, to find coverage, to go in and out, because like, what are all these gaps in your resume? And it's like, I booked a tour, I did this, and it's like, but with a restaurant job, it is just part of the culture. It is such a transient experience, and you can come, you can go, and you can always, even if you leave the industry, you can always come back. There's always a job to do, but it is finding that balance where, again, it is not breaking your soul, because
Yeah.
that's difficult. But so I want to talk about another areas of my life that I'm neurotic, and I want to pick your brain on how you view it, because you are constantly booking. You just finished the national tour of Mrs. Doubtfire,
Hmm?
which is
Yeah.
congratulations. Now,
Thanks. That was fun.
I look at breakdowns and I just get so neurotic to like think about like a cruise ship job or a theater job or a tour, and like, did you have any like kind of, not something holding you back from taking the job, because like, I booked this national tour, and then what happens when CBS calls? What happens
Hmm.
when NBC? Do you ever face that, like, where you get like overwhelmed looking at jobs, or you just like take the job and go, and if you have to fly back for NBC or CBS, you do that? Do you struggle with that choice of like waiting for something better?
Hmm. A little, like with Doubtfire specifically, I booked that job just as the writer strikes and then the SAG strikes were like kind of starting to happen,
It's perfect timing.
and I knew I yeah, but that's the thing, and I knew I'd be gone for a year, and you can't really take TV. You can. There's stipulations in every contract that like I think it's called MRE, more remunerative employment, and you like if you book a TV gig through self tape and it beats your current contract, what you're making there, they have to allow a certain many weeks or a certain many days for you to go do that work. Um, but yeah, I think it is a balancing act, and there is a time where I've had friends and I've had myself where my friends who have done a bunch of tours and they keep getting booked tours, but they're like, I really want to book Broadway. I'm not going to take any more tours because like sometimes you just have to be around and you just have to be there. And so it really, I think, depends on what your goals are. The reason I moved to Los Angeles is because when I was on tour at Doubtfire, which I loved doing, and everyone on it was great. And Rob McClure, if you get to work with him or watch him do anything, please do because he's amazing. But I was on it, and I was on it for about a little over a year, and it was fun, but at the same time, I'm like, this is my fifth tour, and I feel like I've done this a little bit. And during COVID, like you said, I started kind of producing work online, making content, writing a bit more, and that seemed to fulfill me a little bit more. So when it came to the tours kind of winding down, actually, we were in LA around this time last year. We were at the Pantages. My partner and I were deciding, well, do we make the jump to LA because he has a condo here? And we were like, well, it might be more beneficial for me if I'm trying to go into the writing and producing side of things to be where more people are kind of focused on that and not as focused on musical theater. So yeah, that's kind of why I made the choice to come out here. So I think it's a matter of like seeing what you want and what your goals are, and then making sure you're in the right place to do those things. And I will say earlier on in your career, just take jobs. Like,
Yeah.
just take jobs. Like, it could be, especially like TV film. If you have no experience, get in those student films, get some copy, get some like footage of you just doing stuff because that will help get other things. But when you start, kind of saying, okay, my career looks like this, what would I want it to look like? That's when you kind of have to start focusing and choosing which jobs you take, which jobs you pass on, which jobs you go out for a little more closely and carefully.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about some of the stuff that you have created. One of my
Mhm.
favorite things about doing this show is to, even with people I know, is to just go on this like deep dive as I'm structuring this episode and looking at
Okay.
your stuff. So, I want to talk about annoyingly fit neighbor,
Ah, yes.
which I is so relatable. Not that it has to be annoyingly fit, but just that annoying neighbor that is, I feel, specifically a New York thing because we are in such close quarters. So when they're fighting or when they're working out or when they're doing other
Mm.
stuff, you hear everything. You can't escape because like you're gonna have awkward run-ins in the hallway. You're gonna have this. You're gonna get trapped. Like you're coming home from work and I just want to go straight to my bedroom, and someone in the hallway stops you and is gabbing your ear. Like it happens here. It happens. I mean, every time I step outside because my neighbor is wonderful, but he likes to talk. But I feel like it's more so in New York City. So, what was the inspiration to kind of create that little? What would you call it? Like it was a series, right? It was a
Yeah,
full
it
on
ended
series.
up being. Yeah, I did that during COVID because I don't know. I started kind of just doing sketches, and I did one about like there not being enough toilet paper around, like the COVID stuff. And
Yeah.
um, I noticed that people were kind of posting. At one point, people were posting like, "Oh, I've gained the COVID-19," or who cares? We're all eating sourdough bread. And then I was actually in one of the best shapes of my life, and I was posting pictures like annoying people do. Uh, Although I will say it's like I'd never gotten to that level of fitness before, so I was just kind of like really excited and proud of it.
Yeah.
But I had actual like people I've worked with and friends in New York kind of like rolling their eyes and being like, okay, like they were basically like they seemed very bothered that I was doing that posting that sort of stuff. And I was like, well, here's the thing. I grew up the pimply fat kid, and so I was like, I understand that side of it too, of like, oh, this guy's showing off his abs again. Go fuck yourself, basically. And so I was like, well, because I know both sides of that, why not portray both sides of that? And that's where Annoyingly Fit, the idea kind of came from. And I did the first episode, and I posted it on, I think, Facebook. And I got a lot of people being like, "This is funny, do more of these." And so then I did the second one, and like it got a big hit as well. And those were all happening in Arizona because I ended up spending 3 months of COVID in Arizona. But
Mm.
we were getting ready to move back, and I was like, "Well, how do I get these two characters into the same like living area? Because if I want to keep doing this." And so the third episode was about them both randomly going to be in New York for an extended period of time. And I just kept doing it because that was that magical time in COVID where everything was still closed down. There were no restaurant jobs to be had. There were no performance jobs to really be had. And so I was like, well, I have all this time and an opportunity to kind of do this stuff and write this stuff and perform. And one of my acting coaches and friends, Jack Plotnick, he's a big proponent of that. He's like, when things are slow, everyone has an HD camera in their pocket. Go write something, go shoot something that like that is specifically you or that you've always wanted to do. And so I was like, well, let's do it. And it just kind of kept going. And so I did, I think 12 episodes for the first season. And then I thought, okay, let's do one more of these where they, randomly become roommates and it's like an odd couple situation. And I did that, and I knew I could. I didn't want to. People still want it. Like I still hear every once in a while people like, I want more Annoyingly Fit Neighbor. I was like, I feel like it had its time, and I wanted it to be like just season one, season two. That's it, and it's kind of very very English that way. Have you ever watched English television where they just do like they plan on doing 3 seasons, and they just do them, and they're like, that was done. Let's do something else now.
Well, I grew up watching novellas, so I am very comfortable with a
Okay,
beginning, middle, and an end, to where it's like,
exactly.
that's natural. Now,
Yeah,
for that, just so everyone knows, if you haven't seen it, pause this episode, go watch a few episodes.
go watch. It's fun.
It's yeah, you play every character. So
Hmm.
when you're on a Zoom call, you're the other person in the Zoom call. You are the annoyingly fit neighbor. You are the neighbor who is
Hmm.
annoyed, and all that. Are there parts of it, and maybe I didn't watch enough that this is revealed, and
That's okay.
if I'm missing something that you already said, I apologize. But is there a part of it that is almost like a Fight Club or Jekyll and Hyde? Are there elements where like, are these the same people?
Oh, are they the same person? No, I didn't go there.
Okay.
I want there. I got a lot of requests for them to hook up. I will say. I had my gay followers are like, when are they going to hook up? I was like, no, one of them has a wife, so that's not going to be a thing. Although to that end, I did make the fit neighbor. Spoiler alert. By the end, he's kind of like ambiguous the whole time, and I
Yeah.
did that on purpose. I was like, he's we don't know which way he leans, and then in the series finale, I made a decision on that. So go watch the last episode. It's called Cough Drop, and it's revealed what he prefers.
But I feel like everyone that like is that stereotype or is that archetype of a character, I work with
Mhm.
a few of them as they're everywhere here in LA. They are
You
kind
think?
of ambiguous. And like some of the gayest people I've seen in LA are actually straight. And it is kind of funny.
Mm.
And it's like, because it's like you never know which way they swing. And it's like, are they looking? And it's like, oh no, they've zoned out. They've gone into their thing. And it's kind
Or
of
are they looking to see if you're looking at them?
at
That
them,
part too.
which is such a
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes. Now, how fun was it? Because this is the past few episodes has come up a little bit, and I mean this as a giant compliment. Um, but there's a little bit of a oh dear lord, what's his Roger from American Dad, and how he has all these characters, and I feel like if you have that as part of yourself, like that is such an amazing tool for an actor to have, and you
Mhm.
do because you create all these characters and you're playing all these things. This morning I saw one of your reels, and it was you self-taping, making a self-tape, and it's like director you, AD you, the all
Oh
these things,
yeah, that one.
editor. And it was just so funny because it was like that's where I was like, wait, is Annoyingly Fit Neighbor all the same person? Because I watched that one and I was like,
Oh yeah,
But it
yeah,
is
yeah.
so
Okay, yeah.
true. It's like all these hats we have to wear just to make a
Yeah.
2-minute audition, but like you
Mm.
really recreated a full set and the personalities of all like this is how the AD is always, this is how the editor is, this is how and like the side eye to yourself was absolutely hilarious and on point. So like how fun is it to like play against yourself?
I think it's just fun to poke fun at the ridiculousness of content creation, of anything that like stresses you out. Like it's even with like service jobs. Like that's why I think I sent you the little clip of there's one episode of my current series that just I just dropped all 8 episodes called Seeking, that happens in a restaurant, and we actually shot at Crave because they were nice enough to be like,
Oh,
yeah, come during the day, we have deliveries, but as long as those happen, you can shoot wherever you want. And I think I wrote that scene like even before I started writing this series, and I was like, oh, that'll fit in there. It's just kind of how serious everything and how intense everything feels in the moment, but then like you take a little like maybe like an eagle's eye view of it, and you're like, oh, it's just a restaurant, and over there's an airport, and over there is, a bus station, over there's my house. Yeah. So once you like get that, you can kind of look at it and be like, huh, that's funny that we're taking that so seriously. And so I think that's where that comes from, is kind of take like taking the piss out of it, basically.
yeah.
But yeah, and that's I think episode 5 of Seeking, where shh, kitty, I'm talking. Where one of the guys who's never worked a day job in his life before has to get a job at a restaurant, and he kind of points out how sometimes people treat something going wrong in a restaurant like someone's bleeding out in the ER,
Yeah.
and so we actually show that. We actually
It
do a
was
restaurant scene like an ER scene.
It was perfectly hilarious. And to the point, like there is nothing but there's very little that can go wrong in a restaurant that can't be made right. But
Yeah,
specifically, depending on the place, you're right. They just make it seem like the world is on fire, or this well done steak is just like it's on life
the
support. When
end
it's like
of the
we can
world.
we can
Yeah.
refire another steak. We can
Let's
send you
do
out a
another
round of
steak,
drinks,
or the fish will get done a little faster if you want.
eggs.
Like, but I think that's the big thing. And like you talked about how restaurants are getting a little worse or something like that. Number one, I feel like people take things a little too seriously. I don't think Yelp helped at all. I think
No,
that started being like, now we have to like make sure everyone has a 5-star review. I think what to remember when you're going to restaurants, as well as working at them, is that everyone is literally there just because they want to have a good time and have a nice meal. And so if you make that happen, then everyone's happy, and so will you be, so will everyone else be. So it's when people go in there being like, how are they going to screw me over today? It's like, well, buddy, no one's trying to screw you over. We want our money, and you want good food, and so it's kind of like a relationship we're
well,
having here. So
you're as
yeah.
much a part of the experience as I am, because like
Yeah,
I can't chew for you. I can't tell you what you like. So if you ask me what I recommend and I go on with what I recommend, and you tell me you're a
yeah.
vegetarian or you tell me you're allergic to this, like oh, like like
That's why
you have to
whenever I get the question, what do you recommend? I was like, well, what do you normally eat?
exactly. What do you
And then I
like?
try to turn it back on them. So what do you like? And do you normally have like pizza? Do you normally like that way? It kind of gets a little more of like a we're just talking situation.
Exactly. And I mean, I always say, I've said it on here before that like nannying taught me so
Mm,
much about the restaurant industry because I started in restaurants during COVID. I started nannying and I was like,
mm,
oh man, so many of the lessons that I had to like impart in this 5-year-old are like it helped me getting back into restaurants, dealing with grown folk, dealing and being like, because
yeah,
one thing I had to tell this little 5-year-old, my little demon child who I love and adore, was like, the world, like the sidewalk is a shared experience. Everybody is
mhm.
here and wanting to go somewhere just like you. And it's just like restaurants. It's a shared experience. Everyone's here for food.
Just
Everyone
like
has,
driving on the road, like that's when road rage happens. And I, as a new LA driver, I'm experiencing it firsthand. But I have to remind myself, it's like I'm not the only, my goal in this drive is not everybody's goal in this drive. So
Exactly. Now, have you had this coming from New York? Because I still have to check myself, and I'm not the fastest gay walker, but like compared to a heterosexual, my gay walk is on point. But especially like a New Yorker gay and a New Yorker, like I had to like stop myself and breathe, be like, this is not New York because everyone walks so slow here. And I would just be like I was
yeah,
like tailgating people, and like it was a learning curve to be like, chill out, you're in LA. You can sit back and relax a little more. Have you had that
I
adjustment?
I think that that's just because in New York it's such a more walkable city that when someone's walking, they're generally like, it's not to go on a stroll, it's to get
Yeah,
from point A to point B. Whereas like LA is very much like, we're choosing to walk right now. It's so nice that our grocery store is within walking distance. Let's take a walk there. And it's a little more leisurely. So I
exactly.
have noticed that. At the same time, we bought a car and a scooter. So I generally, if I'm going to walk somewhere, I take an electric scooter and therefore just go in the street and go past everyone who's walking. So,
That's wonderful.
but yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just it's a little more leisurely pace here, but people save their walking rage for their road rage, I think, here.
Yeah. Now I want to bring up things that like we have in common besides
Mm,
the all the people we have in common that you probably wouldn't. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong section. That you probably wouldn't think we have in common, and that is one being we both did the musical pageant, which very few people have ever
Yay! Oh my
done.
gosh.
And
Wait, I think I have the poster. Like, we just got everything out. You don't want to see the rest of this apartment. We just got everything out of storage. It's a mess. In fact, when you were talking about Wizard of Oz, kitty. I have a pair of ruby slippers in my size that are like super old that I wanted to get, but
oh
like not
my
just like
God.
not just like glitter heels, like actual recreations of the ruby slipper. So anyway, I couldn't find them though.
That's beautiful. I'm not allowed to have any more heels.
Same,
My
same.
fiance is very patient, and I don't want to push that. Um, but who were you again?
I was Miss Texas, Kitty Bob
Mi-
Ames.
Katie Bob, and that's a tap dancing one, right? It's been a
That
minute.
is. Ooh,
It's
yeah. I'm
been,
actually on the soundtrack now to pageant because they didn't do original cast recording because they did not do an original cast recording of the first run in the 90s. And so
yeah,
when they revived it in 2014, they're like, well, let's do it. I think just so they could get the royalties. I don't see any of that money, but the writers do, which is good for them.
yeah.
On the cast recording, I do the intro into Kitty Bob's number, and then our choreographer actually does the rest of the Texas tap because I was like, well, your tap sounds are better than mine, so you go ahead and do it.
And no one has to know. We'll edit that part out.
Oh, okay.
I
It's
was
okay. Shay Sullivan, she was the one who did it. She was the one who choreographed it. So I was like, do the tap
do
sounds.
it. You got it, girl. I was Miss Industrial Northeast, uh,
Oh, well done.
which
Well, what was it? Manuela Consuela Rafaela Lopez, if I'm
oh,
correct.
it's been like 13 years since I've done the show. But I was so it's really funny. Growing up, my mom would always like she'd always like try and push me to do like, oh, they're looking for this Latino character. They're looking for this da da da. I'm like, Mom, you married an Irishman, and I came out looking just like him, and my
Murtagh,
name
yeah.
is fully Irish. And she would be so offended. She'd be like, but you're my son, and I am Latina, so that makes you Latino, and all this. And she would just get like, first of all, where did that accent come from, Mom? You don't have an accent. But I would always like, I'm not auditioning for Latin roles. And so when I booked that, it was like the biggest I fucking told you so. Like she was beaming with pride at how right she was. And it's like one of two Hispanic roles that I've done. But it was, I basically did an impression of my abuelita and her sisters, but then I
Mm-hmm.
made it with a Puerto Rican accent instead of a Salvadoran accent.
Okay.
But it was so much fun, and I didn't play the accordion, and I couldn't skate, so I basically I had to learn how to play like the minimal accordion. I basically did you do
Mm-hmm.
Fantasia in C, which is we just ran up and down the C scale, and we made a bit because I couldn't skate. That we got old school skates,
Mm.
and I put that I lost my key. I lost my key because the old school skates had keys,
Oh, the
and so
keys. That's right.
we just had the the stage spin, and it became, I think, for not being a skater, I think it made the bit even more wonderful. But it was such a fun experience, like such a weird show, such a
Such a
weird show.
weird show. But that's the thing. It's like it, except for Miss Texas, I feel like all of the uh talents can kind of not be great, and even Miss Texas, depending on how it's directed. But these aren't supposed to be, especially well, because did you then become the last year's winner, or was it Miss West Coast with you?
I sure did.
You did.
Which,
Well, that's the thing.
yeah,
So it's like it doesn't matter like if you have a good talent then because you get eliminated before the final round anyway. So in a way it's funner to play into that and like let people laugh at how bad things are. With Texas, my favorite thing was not getting the crown. I think I got the crown maybe like a handful of times, but I hated when I got the crown because she's the one who thinks she's going to get the crown. She's done 100 pageants and she's won them all. And when she doesn't get that crown, like it's just so satisfying for the audience to see kind of like a mental breakdown start to happen with Kitty Bob Ames, and it was so fun to play. So whenever I got the crown, I was like, oh man, I don't get to do the funny thing. But I
that's so funny.
only won
My
a handful of times.
my Kitty Bob Ames was the same way, except he always won the crown. Like it's
Ow.
because he looked like Reba McEntire, a young Debbie Reynolds, like and Jessica Rabbit mixed into one, and was
Nice.
just absolutely beautiful.
I'm
And
gonna try to send you the picture of me as Kitty Bob Ames here real quick. Hold on.
I'm gonna
But
have to send you my picture too when I find it. It is hilarious. But like he used to get so annoyed because like he did the exact same thing. Like he loved his
yeah.
reaction of not winning.
Hmm.
Um,
It's the
and
best.
my consolation prize was that everyone at the end told me that they were upset that they couldn't vote for me, and I was like, you know what, that's winning.
Okay, that's
that
good.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful. That means the job was done. That was such a fun show, and to be
It's
like
so fun.
the small group of us who have done it. We've also done
Yeah.
uh both done Carmen Gia, which is I did
Oh,
that.
I was just thinking about that the other day. I was like, oh, that was fun. Yeah.
It a fun role, and I did that after pageant, so like my Carmen Gia
Oh,
was
wow.
super fucking queenie. And
Yeah.
then the other thing, Cobb salads.
Oh, I love Cobb salads. I love
I
Cobb.
I love to me they're like the nachos of salads. Like they just have everything.
Well, also, okay, I noticed this. I went to Cheesecake Factory a couple times, and I normally get the Cobb there. And now they've
Yeah.
started putting the calories on there, and the calories in that salad, it's a good day's worth of eating. It's 1,480 calories. So I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll get this occasionally. But they have a tuna salad on there. It's really good, like an ahi tuna salad.
Where
That's
was
only
your
like 400 calories.
where was the best Cobb salad for you in New York City?
In New York, oh, they had a great one at Westville Cafe or Westville Diner. I
Oh.
forget what it's called. Westville in Hell's Kitchen. I think because they use dill and
Mm.
like the dressing they used, and I'd usually get double chicken, but the dill in there just like yummy, yummy, yummy. Westville, really, really good. Uh-oh,
It happened
trying to
again.
reconnect. Trying to reconnect. I swear I'm on full bars and I'm not using any other
It
anything. So
I'm not sure what's happening today. It's in the air today. I think it's just in the
okay,
air.
yeah,
But I love Westville. I
so
That
good.
place was great. I used to love the Chelsea Diner on
Mm-hmm.
23rd and 10th because I mean
Yeah.
that Cobb salad, it was like always like a reward like when I had a really good workout. Because I used to go to the crunch, like there was a crunch on
Oh,
19th and a crunch on 23rd, and that was
mm-hmm.
just like, oh, it was just Cobb salad, fries, and a Diet Coke, which is not healthy at all, which is
No.
just not healthy. But like, you swing enough kettlebells, that's your cheat meal. That's perfectly fine. But I want to talk as we're kind of before, I don't want to tempt the internet any more
Kitty,
than
calm down.
we can. But I want to unpack a little more about your series coming out and what you want to
Hmm,
share with people about what you have coming out, where they can find you, how
sure.
they can support you. So yeah, here's
Kitty,
your time to
definitely.
talk a little bit more about your experiences in restaurants influencing your newest project.
Well, yeah. So, Seeking the series, I just published all 8 episodes for over Pride. I kind of started in May, and then I did 8 weeks of publishing because it's a gay series. It's about two gay roommates, one straight roommate, and how they're kind of like, dealing with living with each other and also dealing with splitting the rent when the straight roommate's girlfriend decides to up and move out in the first episode. It's, a roommate comedy, fun. I actually wrote it back in, I started writing in 2012, and I wrote myself as one of the gay roommates. And then when we decided to shoot it in 2013, I was like, I actually like physically fit this mold a little bit more. And also I realized that in the writing I had, made the straight guy take off his shirt a lot, and I was objectifying him. And I was like, well, if I'm the writer and creator, I think I should objectify myself, because that
Yeah.
seems to, cover a lot of sins. So I was like,
Little
well,
cleaner
let's
this day and age.
a little cleaner, yeah. So I was like, well, that works. And luckily, I got my friends Demarius Copes and Darius Rose, aka Jackie Cox, were very interested in being in it. And oh God, we shot it over 6 days. We got I don't know how we did it. We did 30 pages in one day, which apparently is a lot. You're supposed to do like a page an hour. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, well, we have to get this all done today because we only have the apartment for 3 days. Let's do it. Everyone was great. Everyone worked. We just kind of did it guerrilla style. And it ended up being such a fun little project and product. And it just showed everybody in their best light. Everyone does an amazing performance in it. And it ends up being kind of about, the chosen family you kind of fall into inadvertently in New York, just out of circumstance. Because I don't know if anyone else, but like sometimes you have to take a room in an apartment just because that's the room that's available. And so then you end up kind of forming these friendships that you didn't necessarily seek out or wouldn't seek out on your own, but they kind of form and become a family just from being around each other. And that's kind of nice. And it's one of the fun things about New York. And so, yeah, all 8 episodes are up on my YouTube page right now, called Jumpity Doo Productions. But if you search Seeking Alex Ringler, I think you'll get there. Yeah, and yeah, excuse me, all 8 episodes are live now, and the restaurant one is episode number 5.
And you incorporate so many people that I just like respect and adore their talent as well. Like you mentioned, Jackie Cox, Sutton Lee
Yeah,
Seymour. Uh,
Sutton. Oh my God. Yeah, I had this idea because the initial thought for this, or why I started writing this in 2012, was that's when reality TV was coming out, and it was right after the first actors strike. So reality TV was like big and all the housewives were happening. And I was like, we need better TV. And I was like, well, if I'm going to complain about it, then I need to put my money where my mouth is and actually try to do it. And so the first line, I think, of one of the characters in the show is, man, we need better TV. And they're responding to a TV show they're watching called The Nashville Housewives, and Sutton plays their leading their queen bee, Vandy. And we got all these, we got her in the studio for one day, and we went through all of those, and she was great.
and I mean, you want to talk about like a queen who is from another time and place. Her deadpan, her facial reactions, like they don't make them like her. And I love. I hope that more people in following you and following the show get a little bit of Sutton to themselves, because that one scene that you shared recently is absolutely hilarious. And there's just so much to unpack with you about all the things you're creating. I just want everyone to go follow you at Alex Ringler everywhere, right? You're on TikTok, Instagram, everything's the
Yeah,
same.
I think on TikTok it's at Alex Ringler 0, because there's a Gen Zer who had Alex Ringler and they wouldn't give it to me. So.
Well, fuck them. So as we wrap things up, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to share your stories and your talent with us. Um, Now we know, working in the service industry, you brought up Yelp. Bad news travels faster than any good news, if at all, sees the light of day. Which is why I like to go out of my way when I have a good experience at work, as a customer, anywhere. If I have a great experience, I want to make sure whoever needs to know knows. So I like to take this portion, and if there's anyone in your life, be it on stage, be it at a restaurant, be it wherever you go, that has made a tough shift easier for you, that you would like to acknowledge today.
A tough shift, like a tough shift in a restaurant. Who might have done that? I think maybe my manager Carlos at Crave, he was just always very, honestly, all the managers at Crave in New York, go to Crave in New York. They're a great place. And they have, oyster happy hours most, I think, every day. Um, they are just very much on the side of if you have a problem or if a table is having a problem and you can't fix it right away, come to us, we will fix it. Like, don't over worry yourself with like this one guy who this happened or everything came out wrong for this. That goes above your pay grade and that goes to management. Come to us, we will help fix it. We want you to get paid. We want them to have a good experience. We want everyone to have like the best time possible here. And I think that goes back to what you were talking about with your Valentine's couple. That's how you get repeat customers. And
Hmm.
I think at restaurants who are, very either very stingy or very like hard edge about so many things, I was like, you have to let lines be blurred every once in a while if you're gonna make people happy. I'm not saying you
Yeah.
should acquiesce to everyone's little request or need, but where you can, like, just try your best to make people happy. And I think that's true of like all situations.
Invest back in your guest and they will
Yeah,
come back for their anniversary. They will come back for when their grandma's in town. They will, yes, make the wise investment in your staff, as it sounds like they did, and in your
yeah,
people.
they do.
So there you have it. Carlos, thank you for doing everything that you
Yeah,
do.
Carlos, and let's say also Charlie, also Heather, also Brian, our owner, like all of them. They know what's
Yeah.
up. So
The world
yeah,
clearly needs more people like you. This has been
yeah.
another episode of Tough Shift. And just remember, tough shifts build character, and character is what brings your story to life. Take care. Tough Shift was created and hosted by Sean Patrick Murtagh. It was recorded on Riverside and distributed with Buzzsprout. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review and maybe a comment or two. And remember, tough shifts build character, and character is what brings your story to life.